This week, European leaders met once again to discuss the migration crisis, this time with African counterparts. Over 60 heads of state gathered in Valletta, the capital of Malta, for a two-day meeting where the main aim was to tackle the root causes of migration. According to Joseph Muscat, the Maltese Prime Minister who chaired the meeting, it was an historical event, which resulted in a common action plan and financial support for Africa.
One might argue whether the money put in is enough. It's never enough, it will never be enough, but it is definitely a tremendous step forward.
The EU has so far raised around €2 billion in support for Africa. 1.8 billion comes from the EU budget, while the EU member states have given around 80 million. The money will be part of the action plan, which is set to improve the lives of poor people, basically so they don't feel the need to flee to Europe. Greater access to legal migration for students and researchers is one of the concrete measures. The action plan also includes cooperation to tackle human trafficking and improved protection of displaced persons. However, not everyone sees this as a big step forward. And here at the Brussels office of Amnesty International, they say that this is more of the same old EU policy on migration, which is more about keeping people away rather than helping people in need. Iverna McGowan, Amnesty EU Director, is also concerned that the EU policies, for example when it comes to sending asylum seekers back, could be done in breach of international law.
We need a copper-fast guarantee that funds from the European Union will not be used for human rights violations. Do we have a guarantee, for example, that some of that money won't ultimately go to detention centres where there would be use of arbitrary detention, where there could be use of torture or other ill treatment? How can we have those guarantees that that's not on the table?
Also, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, representing the African Union in the meeting, questioned the policies pursued by some EU countries.
The problem that we are facing today is in part because some countries in Europe have taken a fortress approach. There is no part of the world that can be a fortress.
Leaving the meeting, Dlamini-Zuma said she was concerned with the lack of legal routes to the EU. And as the African leaders left Valletta, the Europeans stayed to continue the talks among themselves on how to handle the massive flow of people coming to Europe. So far this year, more than 800,000 refugees and migrants have crossed the Mediterranean. Several member states have responded with closed external borders, barbed wire and armed forces. And within the EU, more and more governments are reintroducing border controls. The latest example, Sweden. EU Council President Donald Tusk concluded in Valletta that the future of the border-free Schengen area is at risk.
I have no doubt. Without effective control on our external borders, the Schengen rules will not survive.
Tusk also confirmed that the EU will soon hold a special summit with Turkey, which is seen as a key partner in order to stop the flow of refugees. Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said that the joint action plan is about to be concluded with Turkey, which will include setting up a migration facility in Syria. But Juncker also stressed that the EU member states have to implement the decisions being taken. So far, they have a poor track record when it comes to implementation. Among other things, they have decided to create 11 hotspots, that is registration centers for migrants, and also to relocate 160,000 refugees from Greece and Italy. So far, just 2 hotspots are up and running, and out of the 160,000 that are to be relocated, only 147 have been moved to other EU countries.